As our trip from Palm Sunday to Easter continues, we go to Matthew chapter 24. Jesus left the temple and was going away when his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. And he answered them, "You see all these, do you not? Truly I say to you, there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." Sometimes things look very secure, solid, strong, perhaps even indestructible, but our world is made of change. It's one of the basics, and it happens every day. And sometimes it happens in ways that may quite throw us off because we have points of perspective and orientation that are important to us and that give us some sense of security. So perhaps we better consider, what are those things that make us feel more secure, and are they all that dependable? Jesus sat at the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came privately to him, saying, "So tell us when it will be, the sign of your coming and of the close of the age." And Jesus told them, "Take heed that no one leads you astray. Many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and they will lead many astray. You'll hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see that you're not alarmed. This must take place, but the end is not yet, and nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All this is but the beginning of the birth pangs." There's a lot going on here, and a lot more that's about to go on, just the beginning of the birth pangs. Then Jesus says, "Then they'll deliver you up to tribulation. They'll put you to death. You'll be hated by the nations for my name's sake, and many will fall away. Some will betray others, others will hate others. Many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because wickedness is multiplied, most people's love will grow cold." Hear that again. Because wickedness is multiplied, most people's love will grow cold. When wickedness is multiplied, love grows cold. You need to warm up love to bring about more good in this world and have God bring about a change in our hearts and our lives. Jesus goes on to say, "The one who endures to the end will be saved, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached through the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." Then Jesus talks about the desolating sacrilege, the abomination spoken of by the prophet Daniel, standing in the holy place. When that happens, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let people go immediately. Let nothing delay you, just go. And then there will be great tribulation. Now listen, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. If you think you've had trials and tribulations and troubles, this says this will be more than ever. And he says, if those days had not been shortened, no human being would save, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. If somebody says to you, "Lo, here is the Christ," there he is, do not believe it, for false Christs and false prophets will arise and show great signs and wonders so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. Jesus goes on to say, "As lightning comes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man." Then he talks about how immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon won't give its light, the stars will fall from heaven, the powers of the heavens will be shaken, and then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they'll see the Son of Man coming on the clouds with power and great glory, and he'll send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they'll gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. You see, the time of tribulation leads to the coming of the Son of Man and the fulfillment of the prophecies. And then Jesus points out the fig tree, how when the fig tree puts forth leaves that you can tell that summer's near. And so when you see all these things that Jesus talks about, you know that he's near at the very gates. And he says, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away." Then he says it's important that we be watching. He says, "Of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only." There have been people through the ages who have presumptuously suggested they knew when Jesus was coming. They didn't know. This says so. And then it talks about how there are going to be people who go along about their life's business as if there's nothing to be concerned about. and then will be the coming of the Son of Man. There will be two people in the field, and one's taken and one left. Two women grinding at the mill, one taken, one left. He says, watch, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. You must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. We need to be watchful, ready. We need to have our hearts in the way they need to be. We need to have our minds increasingly the way that God would have our minds be. We need to have our lives giving glory to God. And so, Jesus concludes this portion of Matthew 24 with saying, who then is the faithful and wise servant whom his master has set over his household to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master, when he comes, will find so doing. Truly, I say to you, he'll set him over all his possessions. But if that wicked servant says to himself, my master is delayed, and begins to beat his fellow servants, and eats and drinks with the drunken, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he does not know, and will punish him, and put him with the hypocrites. There men will weep and gnash their teeth. So which way will you be? Which way will I be? Will we be a wise and faithful servant of God, or will be one who's just doing our thing without regard for what God's will is and for the goodness of God working in our lives? God bless you today, and as we continue to work our way through the Gospel of Matthew on our trip from Palm Sunday to Easter.